Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? Today was the 2026 class signing day for Wisconsin football. And I'm going to get a little bit into some of the kids who signed, what it means, hits, misses, things like that. But what I will not do is bury the lead. We just had a recent issue at Wisconsin where it looked like Luke Fickell was not only on the hot seat, but might be on the way out. And AD Chris McIntosh stepped in to reaffirm that Fickell will be back in 26, aka save the recruiting class. And in a PR barrage, including Ted Kellner, billionaire booster, reaffirmed that Wisconsin would be spending money in a way that would allow it to rise from the ashes of this season. Kellner was so bold as to say we would be a top third Big Ten spending team. And while I am not in the position right now, in any given scenario involving a 2026 recruit, to say that money ultimately was the deciding factor, I don't know that. I can't say that. To lose Amari Latimer on signing day, your lone elite recruit, the centerpiece of the 2026 class, not only in his recruitment, but since his commitment last June. To call it shocking, probably a little bit of an overstatement. To call it inexcusable, more accurate. Much more accurate. I don't want to attack anybody. That's never my goal here. But boots on the ground, guys. I gotta tell it like it is. This is, from a football perspective, bad. This is a super talented kid. Class elevator, kind of guy who has other people say, hey, he's going there, why can't I? Whether they're in a portal or whether they're recruits. But more from a PR perspective, it's a disaster. There's no other way to spin it. You cannot spin it any other way. This is a kid who's been, I understand there's been questions about, with any big recruit, he's still getting pursued by Miami, West Virginia, names I never want to say again on my show. But the conventional wisdom is he was pretty locked down. Took some visits to Ohio State, stuff that you do if you're really good at your position and really good at your job. So when the bomb drops on signing day that he is decommitted, not decommitted, just at this point, it's just signing with someone else. He's not going to be a Wisconsin Badger. That is a gut punch. That is a nut punch. That's a throat punch. And it is the top line about anything associated with this class, which is unfortunate because there is, and I'm going to go into it in a moment, a pretty decent spate, although it's a small class, of talented players spread across a number of positions. I don't want to lose sight of that. They're good kids with talent who signed with the Badgers. I'm going to get to all this. I'm going to give my grades, all this stuff. But I would be extraordinarily remiss, not as remiss if I didn't ask you to like and subscribe. That is always important, and Scary Alvarez appreciates it. But I would be remiss if the top line theme of the show wasn't Amari Latimer. It has to be. So getting back to my initial theme, and again, with the concession that not everything is about money, but to see your top recruit, the crown jewel of your class, leave Wisconsin on signing day to go to another team, besides the commentary it has on the coaching staff and the confidence this kid obviously didn't have in it to be the best place for him to pursue his football career, which will very possibly end up in the National Football League. As I started at the outset, it's a commentary on this, oh yeah, well, we're going to be playing with the big boys now. financially when you've seen no evidence of that? Now, if we were to dig down in some of these late recruits and things they've done and guys they've gotten kind of at the end here, I'm not saying that money hasn't been paid or promised. I'm not saying that that hasn't been an aspect. Okay. There are, and I've said this before, Max and some of these dudes, there's some really talented, dedicated dudes on this staff. This staff in some ways out recruits what it should, given how bad the team has been and given the trajectory of the program. I mean, it's almost like miraculous that they've been able to land some of these guys, but that's beside the point. It's just very, very galling to see a kid who has been committed to Wisconsin for 6 months walk on signing day. The intricacies of what Fickell did or did not do in this situation, that's a tale that will be told going forward. We'll learn more about this going forward. I don't claim to have that insider information, but I have outsider information, objective information. But it is extraordinarily disconcerting to lose Latimer. It's just, we're all dealing with it. I mean, these are high school kids. You know, we all have our own lives. In the scope of things that are important in the world, it's not that important. But this is a Wisconsin Badger podcast, so we are going to talk about it in those terms. It's okay to be pissed. It's okay to be pissed, guys. I'm pissed off. It's a fact. Talking the smack, he didn't do it. Maybe if you go into Minneapolis and don't look like a ball of wet clay, maybe the kid sticks with you. I don't know. I don't know that's the reasoning, but I've said this before. If I'm a parent to one of these kids and I've seen what I've seen on the field this year, we're going to have conversations. It's just in the Latimer situation, the fact that it got to this day, there wasn't a decommitment a month ago or a week ago or when things were at their lowest this season, you kind of thought maybe you had them locked down then. To the point where I had a podcast just yesterday where we did the Wisconsin Badger retention draft, and I, foolishly it seems, put Latimer as my number 1 draft pick. Oops. That's how sure I was. Anyway, we are going to do a quick hitter today. I'm going to move past Latimer onto the rest of the class, and I'm going to give my grade. I'm not going to go through every one of these kids, but there are some names I really do like, and I feel I'm doing a disrespect to them by complaining so much about Latimer. Let me turn that faucet off, and we're going to turn to the class. So my first thing I'm turning real quick is to Quintavious Wiggins. Another Georgia kid, kind of a late add to the class. They call him Fat Boy. 5'10", 195. So it's obviously an ironic name. This kid's good. 247 has him at 89. So he's a borderline 4-star. Top 25-ish running back in the class. He's a kid where if this had been the running back you landed and we'd never heard of Amari Latimer, you could live with it. And you want to get 2 bodies in the room, but you could live with it. I like that signing a lot. I'm going to go over some of the ones I really like. We got Bob. We got this big, not massive, but big defensive lineman from Tennessee. I like that a lot. He is going to be a good piece for that line. He's not going to be a one-tech kind of run clogger type, but his feet are good, and I think it's going to take some coaching, but he's going to be, I think, a potentially really, really good player for the Badgers. Back in East, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. He's a late signing offensive tackle, big kid, still room to grow, 6'6", 295, number 1 player in Massachusetts, for what that's worth, on some services. I like that ad after losing our lone 2 offensive linemen. That's a really good one. Seavers, the tight end out of Washington, steady hands, big kid, looks like he has the kind of frame to put more weight on, could develop. Definitely, enjoy seeing the recruiting out in the West Coast. I think you're going to have to do that a little bit. Maybe some of the kids Oregon and Washington miss out on. Good. So there's some dudes, guys. I mean, they're going to be probably as many misses as hits as any class is, and you're dealing with a lot of 3-stars. But there are guys. You did go in state. Barely. But you got Ben Wenzel. Sure tackling linebacker. The kind of kid that would have been an afterthought as far as, not an afterthought as far as missing out, an afterthought as far as Christ or Bielema or Alvarez would have grabbed this kid. This is like a quintessential Badger kind of recruit. Linebacker, really like his game. Zion Legree, so he was kind of another late-ish, although it was probably late summer, wide receiver to the class. Out of Florida, speedster, not a boundary guy. We missed out on that when our 4-star boundary guy decided he wanted to play for Oklahoma. I feel like I'm mentioning everyone, but I'm going over this list, and those are just some of the guys that stand out to me. I don't think there's a bad recruit on this board. I really that's the floor of this class, although it's small, is relatively high. I didn't see any reaches here. I think they're saving those for the portal or saving those. I'm not sure, saving the money on that. They're not just giving scholarships to fill a class out, and that I actually do like. Ryan Hopkins, another kid I mentioned in my draft show, quarterback from Mater Dei, has some growing to do in the position, but that is the kind of quarterback you want to, assuming you're not getting a 5-star stud, which we never get. That's a really good developmental piece. I don't think he's going to play in 2026, but that might be their best recruit they signed today. The Schaefer kid, that's another good one. The linebacker, JUCO. But anyway, I could go on forever. There are better shows to go over and analyze the class overall. But Latimer, losing him, the lack of a boundary receiver, not being able to replace the one you lost, the relative lack of offensive line depth, although getting Beckenhuis late was something. Not great, guys. I don't know. I mean, there are some good kids. There's a good geographic distribution here. I just don't. I don't know. I'm not going to be into cope and make up that I love this class when I don't. If the class were twice the size and had a similar makeup of players, I think that would be a decent, very like Paul Chris 2015 kind of class, like one of his early Chris classes, and we'll see how they develop. But it's such a small class. You'd like to see some high-end 4-star type players, and there just really aren't any. But of course, that goes to coaching. So maybe this coaching staff, hopefully it's a retooled coaching staff, I'll get into that in a future show, can develop these kids, that they knock it out of the park in the portal. But I am forced to give a grade to this class, and curving it as generously as I can given the size of the class, but that's a decision by the staff, so they don't get a lot of credit for that. I'm going to give this recruiting class a C-. The only way you can properly grade a recruiting class is 2 years later, if not longer. So that has probably the same value as this podcast cost you to listen to, which is nothing. But kind of the top line is you have some good pieces here, some really talented players who've stuck with the program through thick and thin. You lost your big guys, both of them, your top two, by a wide margin. The crown jewels of your class. You lost those. You didn't replace them. Problematic, especially given the commitment to additional monies that we saw. Real head scratcher to me. You have a quarterback piece here that has some real upside. I like it in Hopkins. And you added a guy, in some cases guys, at various positions that, if they're properly developed, could be strong contributing players in the Big Ten. I think that is about as generous as I can be with this recruiting class. I think there's some great kids. I'm happy for them, excited to see them develop. But yeah, that's a C minus for Scary Alvarez. And I'll probably have people in my comments telling me that I was too generous. But I'm not going to go lower than that. Scary Alvarez out.